All right, everyone, welcome to Class 8, the final class of our April Mindful Living Workshop. And tonight I'm honored to have Jeremy Wolf on as our guest teacher. In most workshops and things like that, you'd say we're going out with a bang, the last class. But tonight we're going to go out the opposite. We're going to go out relaxed. So Jeremy's been teaching in Denver for years and years and years. I met him through Samadhi Yoga, where I did my yoga teacher training years ago. He brings people all over the place for wonderful workshops and focuses on yoga nidra, and he's going to teach us more about what yoga nidra is and do a guided practice tonight and just share all that. And Jeremy's just a great guy. I'm just honored to have him on the call. He's going to guide a little meditation and then take it on from there. And then I just wanted to say thank you for doing this month-long mindfulness workshop, and we look forward to doing another one really soon here. And we'll turn it over to Jeremy. Oh, and I should mention too, as part of Jeremy, what he does, he's also Solar Moon. He's an excellent DJ as well, so lover of music, has a beautiful little family as well, and yeah, just a great guy. So thanks, Jeremy. You could take it in from here.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric. It's great to be here. Yeah, I'm really honored to be participating in this. And you're right, we're not going to go out with a bang tonight. We might go out with a snore. That's possible. That's even more likely. But we'll definitely slow things down this evening. I want to offer everyone a practice that, if they haven't experienced before, it can be one they feel, hopefully they'll feel is very accessible. And in terms of meditation and mindfulness practice, it's a way to really start to create deep shifts through a very subtle and mostly passive practice. But to begin this evening, I'd like to just guide us through an opening meditation to help us get centered. So if everyone joining could just simply close their eyes to start. And simply notice what happens when your eyes close. That reduction of information that we're now taking in from the external world. And for whatever preparation it took to arrive at this moment, just now simply allow yourself to be here at the end point of all of your effort that has led up to this moment. And for this next hour, feel that there's no more preparation necessary. We can simply sit back and receive this moment as it unfolds. Bring your attention now into your breath and increase the depth of your breath just by about 10 to 15%. So we're not even approaching a level of strain or discomfort with the breath, but we're now actively participating in it. We're bringing the breath from being an unconscious function happening in the background into the foreground of our experience. And as you take these slightly deeper breaths, feel the breath more as an experience, not simply something that the body is doing, but the rhythm of life actually moving through it. Now, as a way of even more deliberately participating with our breath, we'll start to work with a specific ratio. So begin to steer your breath to where you're inhaling for 4 counts, and you're slowing down the exhale to be at 6 counts. And don't feel that you have to take in a large breath in order for it to last 6 counts through the exhale, you're just simply slowing down the pace at which the breath is released. Enjoy a moment to establish that rhythm. Breathing in for 4, breathing out for 6. Now continue to stay with this rhythm, but bring your attention to the movement of air through your nostrils. Become aware of the natural physical sensation of air passing through the nostrils, ascending up each nostril to the top of the nose, toward the point right between your eyebrows, and each exhale descending down through the nostrils. As you keep with this 4 to 6 breath, begin to imagine now, each time you exhale, the combined breath flows out through only one nostril. So each time you breathe in, you feel the air flowing in through both nostrils, and feel that the breath converges to a single point in the eyebrow center. When you exhale, the combined breath flows down just through the left nostril. You inhale again, feeling the breath enter both nostrils, meeting at the eyebrow center, and then you exhale mentally through the right nostril only. Each time you breathe in, it's both nostrils. And each time you exhale, mentally, it's just one nostril, alternating back and forth. As you stay with this process, let's now connect to an experiential component. Each time you're enjoying the elongated exhale through one nostril, connect to a specific experience. When you're exhaling through the left nostril, feel as though all mental tensions, stresses, concerns, and worries are flowing out of the body on the breath, flowing out through the left nostril. Each time you exhale through the right nostril, feel as though all physical tensions, all agitation and restlessness flows out of the body. When you mentally exhale through the left nostril, the mind is emptying and becoming calm. As you mentally exhale through the right nostril, the body is settling, becoming more relaxed. And feel not so much that you're making this happen, but you're simply allowing it to happen. Now complete your next exhale and relax the practice. Return to normal breathing. Keep your attention inside. Now feel that you can place your attention right at the doorway to the senses. In other words, as the information is entering the senses, whether it be through the skin, the nose, the ears, even through the eyelids, you're just experiencing what's present. Prior to the mind labeling it, framing it, identifying it, it's just experience. Place your attention in the moment of experience, where you're just simply feeling what's happening as it's happening. There's no need to understand it or attach preference to it. You sense your ability to look essentially through your senses out into the world. But in this moment, we're not looking for anything specific. We're just simply looking. Now with your attention resting in the senses, notice that we not only have the capacity to look out through the senses, but also to look inward. Begin to sense the inner dimension of the body. In whatever way you feel or sense the variety of processes and functions, you might come to find that there's quite elaborate layers of sensation in varying parts of the body. You might even sense that the skin across the whole surface of the body is also full of sensation. And you might literally begin to feel the aliveness in the body. As you sense the presence of whatever is there, become aware not only that the body is present, sensation is present, breath is present, but become aware also that awareness is present. In other words, become aware of that part of you that is aware. The part of you that has been watching or feeling. Notice that that part of you that's aware is distinct from all of the objects that you're aware of, whether they be external or internal. Now bring your attention back to your breath. Let the breath become deep and full. And with your next exhale, simply allow your chin to fall forward. Before you open your eyes, become aware again of awareness. Stay connected to that as you slowly start to open your eyes. So you might be aware not only of what you see, but of the one that's seeing. Now come back fully and relax. So this meditation was really to set us up for how I'm going to introduce the practice of Yoga Nidra this evening, and a little bit how I framed it based on what we titled this session. The title of this session was Peace, a State, Not a Circumstance. And to explain what I mean by that, I'd like to start by painting a picture. Most of us move through life and spend most of our time, most of the day, tending to the objects of the world. We tend to our responsibilities, we tend to our family, our friends, we tend to our job, we tend to our desires and needs, the things that we have throughout the day. And most of our attention, in fact, is going outside of the body. It's going out into the world. And of course, what you've been studying through this series and what we practice when we come into any form of meditation is that we start to tend to the internal environment, that we actually start to tend to the internal objects of the mind and body. I sometimes like to say that the body is a very fragile ecosystem. It's an ecosystem composed of functions, of sensations, of breath, of emotions, of thoughts, of desires, intentions, all of these different things. And all of these things are constantly responding, or in many cases reacting to the objects of the external world. And we tend to look into the external world for whatever it is that we're seeking, rather than to look into the internal world. In the practice of Yoga Nidra, we're actually looking at how we're responding to or reacting to the objects of the external world. We tend to think generally that our environment shapes our experiences. We might wake up in the morning and sort of unconsciously wait for the day and the situations that present themselves to tell us how our day is going to be or what our day is going to be like, as opposed to choosing our mental state, choosing the state of all of those internal processes, and then letting that determine the experience that we have as we move through the world or move through the day. And what we want to do is start to look at how we can address these internal objects, because the experiences that we have ultimately have far less to do with the external environment. They have far less to do with the circumstances that present themselves, and far more to do with how we relate to those circumstances. And this inner environment of the body and mind is constantly being informed, not just by the senses, but even more so by the interpretations that we make about what's coming through the senses, about how we want to relate to it, if it's desirable or if it's undesirable. And then based on those preferences, based on those ideas, we start to move into a state of I want or I don't want. And this starts to create an undercurrent of friction that can be there almost perpetually. It can be there throughout the entire day, throughout the entire week. In fact, many of us get very little break from this undercurrent. And what I want to discuss this evening in the context of Yoga Nidra is how we can become aware of what the undercurrent is and how we can start to refine how that current flows and how that current is informing our internal state, this internal ecosystem of emotions and thoughts, and ultimately actions as they translate. So the practice then becomes tending to the internal environment. When I say peace is a state, not a circumstance, the idea is that most of us in some way are looking for happiness. Most of us are looking for peace, and we're looking for it in the external world. We have a media that is constantly telling us that's where it is. Based on what you have, based on where you are, based on what you've accomplished, then you can find peace, then you can find happiness, then you can find fulfillment. And so that's most certainly what we keep doing. But as long as we've been trying to find these things through the external world, we're still seeking them. We're constantly seeking them. We do find some degree of temporary satisfaction, a temporary sense of fulfillment, temporary sense of joy, and even a temporary sense of peace that's supported by our environment. But what we find is that those things don't last. They last as long as the circumstances that are preferable stay in place. And as soon as those circumstances change, there goes our peace, there goes our happiness, there goes our contentment or fulfillment. So the idea is that when we feel joy, we usually think that it's the event that's happening or the person that's there or the gift that we've been given that invokes that state of joy. But when we experience joy, are we experiencing it outside of the body or are we experiencing it inside of the body? We could say that joy is expressed through the body, through the senses, through our relationships to others, laughter and how we share that excitement. But the experience that we have is an internal experience. And the idea is rather than look into the world to get permission to have this experience of joy, we can look at what internally blocks it from being present more so or eventually all of the time. Many of the practices of yoga and meditation and many of the wisdom traditions teach that we can look for happiness in the external world, but it's much, much harder. It's much easier to refine and navigate the objects of the internal world, to arrange them in such a way that joy can be present. And so rather than looking into the world for that perfect arrangement of circumstances, that most desired arrangement, and experiencing that temporary joy until those circumstances start to change and move, because of course the nature of the universe has changed, we start to look at how are we relating to the nature of change, that everything is changing. How can we relate to the world in such a way that we don't enjoy life only when desirable objects are present and not enjoy life when they're not present, for example? So the tending to the internal objects, it's really about how we start to experience joy or peace. It's true, for example, that if we go into a Zen garden, we're in an environment that resonates peace, that has likely in some way sort of blocked out the disturbance from the surrounding environment. And most definitely that can be supportive for our own ability to access peace internally. But what if it's not the circumstance that creates the experience of peace, but it's in a specific circumstance that we actually give ourselves permission to let peace come through, to let peace be the nature of our experience, which is to say, it's in those moments that we no longer identify with the things that are creating conflict internally, so that peace now can arise. And this is so much of what we're looking at in the practice of Yoga Nidra. Most of us say, we do want peace. I want to experience peace. But what we're experiencing internally is anything but peace. We're anticipating the future. We're dissatisfied with the present. We're constantly running from the past or trying to change it or fix it or just carry it around as a burden. And we're in conflict with what we have. We're in conflict with what we don't have. We're in conflict with what we're feeling, which just creates more conflict on top of the conflict. And even in our relationships, we create conflict. So we want peace, but the reality is to find it and to actually create it in the world, we have to start creating it internally. So think about how if we could remove the conflict, what would be left? So for example, I like to define peace as the absence of conflict. So if you think about, if you remove all the conflict, what's left is peace, because there's nothing creating conflict. And there's an idea that Eckhart Tolle shares in one of his books, I think it might be A New Earth, where he says something to the effect of, what if happiness is the absence of unhappiness? So it's not that we have something that we didn't previously have, but we've let go of something that we were previously carrying, for example. That we're no longer harboring the conflict-creating situation or emotion that's keeping us in a state of disturbance. In Yoga Nidra, what we're practicing is identifying that there's a distinction between awareness and experience. So just like I was pointing to in the opening meditation, the idea is that awareness and experience aren't the same thing. We tend to think they are. We think, oh, I'm angry. We even say, I am angry. But it would be more accurate to say, I'm currently experiencing anger. Whether that's mentally, whether that's physically, and certainly it'll translate. But it would be more accurate to say that the I that's experiencing, the awareness that's aware of the anger that's manifested in the body and in the mind, is actually distinct from the experience that's being experienced or seen or witnessed. In the practice of Yoga Nidra, we're really trying to make this distinction. And it happens very simply. And how it happens is that we're simply disidentifying with the things that we're constantly identifying with. So in order to remove the conflict, to let the state of peace naturally shine forth, or remove the unhappiness, to let happiness naturally be there, it has to do not by solving our problems, quote unquote, but by no longer identifying with the circumstances in our life in such a way that they create problems, quote unquote, or that they create conflict, or that we are simply perpetuating this state of disturbance, this state of discontent. So we tend to live in a state of discontent because we live in this idea that something is always wrong. Something is wrong with the present moment, and I can't be happy or peaceful until I change it. And so we look to the external world to rearrange our circumstances to try to change it. But what if we looked into the internal world and we started to redefine how we relate to the external world, even how we relate to the objects of the internal world? So in the practice of Yoga Nidra, just like the opening meditation pointed to, we practice witness awareness. Most of the time, as I say, we're tending to the objects of the world, and we're identified with the objects of the world. And when we're practicing Yoga Nidra, we're simply being aware of what's here, rather than trying to fix something about the past or anticipate something or prepare for something in the future. We're just simply allowing what's here to be present just as it is. We disassociate from the story that we have about how what's here defines us somehow in a particular way. And in that, there starts to be a space between the part of us that's aware and the things that we're aware of. And as that distance grows, what we start to realize is that we're not the things that we're experiencing. We're actually the one who's experiencing those things. And though it can feel or sound like an abstract distinction, at least initially, with practice it becomes more and more evident that this is most certainly the case. So in the practice of Yoga Nidra, essentially what we're looking for is a relaxed state. We create a deeply parasympathetic state by guiding the body and mind into a state of total relaxation, physical relaxation, mental relaxation, and emotional relaxation. Typically, the practice is done lying down so that you don't even have to sit upright. That's one of the reasons I encourage people to try it, even if they've struggled with meditation, because in Yoga Nidra, we can lie down. And it's in fact okay if you fall asleep. The practice is to remain awake because we gain more benefit in making these distinctions just by practicing awareness as we open up the subconscious and unconscious. But if you fall asleep, that's okay too. It's actually quite a high quality of rest that you get in Yoga Nidra because we can induce such a deep state of relaxation. So in the practice, we'll lie down, and there's almost nothing that you do. We'll do a little preparation when we do the practice here in just a moment, but there's almost nothing that we do. We lie there and we're simply aware of what's present, whether it's breath that I'm directing your attention to, whether it's visual imagery, whether it's sensation. You're simply along for the ride. You're not trying to make anything happen. You're not trying to analyze anything. It's just as though you're watching a movie on a screen. You're just watching the images pass by, the sensation, the breath, or whatever it is. So as we're practicing, it becomes very accessible for many people that can't sit upright, that can't focus, that can't get the mind to be still. We don't actually need the mind to be still. If the mind's busy, we simply watch that too, no problem. And as we move through the practice, we move through increasing states of subtle awareness. In the yoga tradition, These different states are called koshas, and they're different layers in which we experience the world. They're the physical body, the subtle body and breath body, the mental emotional body, what's known as the wisdom body and the bliss body. And we experience the world in different ways through these layers. And in each of these layers, we have stored some degree of conflict based on impressions or experiences that we've had in the past. When we go through the practice of Yoga Nidra, what we're doing is starting to dismantle and undo the charge of these impressions, the conditioning that has come about from our past experiences that, for example, might create fear or a sense of insecurity. We start to dismantle these associations so they no longer define how we show up in the world, how we experience the world, and most importantly, how we experience the present moment. So there's a great attention to a process of undoing things through the practice of non-doing. We lie there and let it happen. And this undoing naturally takes place when there's that separation between us constantly identifying with the content of our mind and actually just letting it be there. So as we go through the practice, the aim is to lie still. The aim is to follow my voice. The aim is to remain awake as much as you can, but recognize that it's natural not to hear everything, and that's okay too. Whenever you hear my voice again, just tune back in. One other active piece that we'll do in Yoga Nidra, in fact, it's really the only active piece. As I talked about, the passive piece is the dismantling. The active piece is that we use intention. We use intention to create a specific point of orientation that we can aim our lives toward, whether it's an experience, whether it's that we embody a certain quality, whether it's something that we accomplish. It's something that can start to inform our actions and choices. So I'll invite you to create an intention as well and guide you through the process of how to do it. So with that, I'd like to take us into the practice. So at this time, if you have the ability to lie down, I would say best to lie comfortably on the floor. If you have a soft floor or a little bit of padding, that would be ideal. You can, in fact, use your bed. The only quote-unquote danger of the bed is that you're more likely to fall asleep because that's the association that you have to the bed. And that's okay if it does happen. If that's the only space that you have available, then you can most certainly use it. So take a moment, prepare the body, finding a space where you can completely stretch out and eliminate any distractions. So turn your phone off, close your door. If you have any pets nearby, you can remove those pets kindly so they won't disturb you during the practice. If you don't have the ability to lie down, it is okay to be seated. Just make sure you're comfortable, that you have enough back support, that you can just simply rest. You might also prepare for the body temperature to drop. The aim, once we start the actual practice, will be to remain still. So if you want to grab a blanket at this time, you can grab a blanket and cover the body. Take just another moment to settle in, making any adjustments, preparing to begin the practice. In a moment, as a preparatory technique, we'll engage in a tension relaxation exercise, which I'll guide you through. So the body doesn't have to be completely still just yet, but I'll cue you in to when we want to invite that stillness. It's by holding the body completely still that we can move into a deep state of relaxation, the deepest in fact. What we're looking for is to move toward the state of sleep and yet at the same time remain aware. Most of the practice may be experienced in that thin zone where we're not quite awake, not quite asleep, but we may not be aware of the body or even our surrounding environment at times. Once you've become settled, allow the body to relax. Simply do a quick scan to notice anywhere in the body you may be holding tension. Invite those parts of the body to let go. Now take a slow, deep breath in, and when you exhale, let go completely. Now repeat this again, and this time let go even more. Become aware of your natural breath. And for the next few moments, return to the same breath that we practiced during the opening meditation. Breathe in at the count of 4 and breathe out at the count of 6. At this time, there's no visualization about alternate nostril breathing. Just simply breathe in for 4 and breathe out for 6. And just as soon as you establish that rhythm, rather than staying in the position of performing this technique to refine the breath, be more in the receiving. Feel how the mind and body are starting to respond to the extended exhale. Each time the exhale arises, fully allow the body to set sail on that experience. Feel that gravity is most certainly a big part of that experience. That gravity and your exhale are collaborating to guide the body into an even deeper state of release. Feel the body naturally sinking into the floor or your bed. Now relax your breath. Let it become normal once again. The final preparatory technique that we'll use is the tension relaxation exercise. For this exercise, I'll cue you to tense certain muscles of the body when you breathe in. And we'll hold that tension, and then when we exhale, we'll release the tension in the breath. Just a side note, anyone with cardiac disease, glaucoma, or hypertension, don't hold the breath during the practice, just continue to breathe normally. So first, bring your attention to your hands and fingers and arms. As you take the next breath in, make fists in your hands and tense all of the muscles in your hands, fingers, arms, all the way up to the shoulders. Hold that tension. Hold. And now let go. Let go completely. Simply be aware of the presence of sensation in the arms. And now the lower part of the body. As you take the next breath in, tense and tighten the toes, feet, legs, buttocks, and hips. All of the muscles from the waist down. Hold that tension. And now let go. On your next exhale, let go even more. Notice the quality of sensation in the legs. Now the whole body. As you inhale, tighten and tense all of the muscles, hands, arms, shoulders, chest, abdomen, legs, buttocks, feet, face. Tense all of those muscles and hold. And now let go. On your next exhale, let go completely. Feel all tensions simply melting away. Let your awareness rest in the subtle pulsations, the various sensations that you feel throughout the body. Make any final adjustments to your position with the intention now to remain still. Bring your attention now to the center point between your eyebrows, the space directly behind your forehead, where awareness seems to rest in the body. At this time, bring forth an intention. It can be any intention that's calling forth a positive movement or experience in your life. When you've chosen this intention, frame it in the present tense, so you're not declaring that it will happen someday, but that it's already true. Let it be a declaration that this experience is part of your reality now. Now envision what this reality looks and feels like. Immerse yourself in the feelings and quality of this experience. And while immersed in this experience, repeat your intention mentally 3 times. Now bring your attention back to the body. Simply notice the quality of stillness present in the body. Notice the space directly surrounding the body and the quality of stillness that occupies it. Feel that there's no distinction between the quality of stillness around the body and the stillness within the body. As I bring your attention to different parts of the body, just simply sense either the stillness or perhaps any sensation present in that body part. Begin once again with your attention in the eyebrow center. Notice either sensation or perhaps just stillness. the pit of the throat, right shoulder joint, right elbow, wrist, right thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little finger, wrist, elbow, shoulder, throat, left shoulder, left elbow, thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little finger, wrist, elbow, shoulder, throat, center of the chest, right side of the chest, center, left side of the chest, center, pit of the throat, eyebrow center. Let your awareness once again sink into an inner quality of stillness within the eyebrow center. Bring your attention to the soles of your feet. Bring your attention to the crown of your head. Begin to feel the breath as an internal wave that flows through the body. Feel as though the breath flows between the crown and the tips of the toes. As you breathe in, feel the breath as a wave that flows down from the crown through the whole body to the tips of the toes. As you breathe out, feel the breath rise from the toes up through the body to the crown. Each inhale descends to the toes. Each exhale rises to the crown. Just like a ripple on the surface of the pond, meeting the shore, would bounce back in the opposite direction. Feel this subtle rhythm of the breath as a wave flowing back and forth through the body. Now leave awareness of the breath as an internal wave. Enter the experience of heaviness in the body. Awareness of the whole body, absolutely heavy. So heavy, there's the feeling of sinking. The weight of the body sinking deeper and deeper. Now enter the experience of lightness, as if the body were completely weightless, so that it's floating, empty and hollow, drifting through the air completely weightlessly. Now remember the experience of disappointment, perhaps being in anticipation of something and not receiving or achieving it. Remember the feeling of disappointment, how it felt physically and mentally. Now remember the experience of satisfaction or achievement, feeling that you received the appropriate reward for your efforts. Remember that feeling of achievement in mind and body. Now leave that experience. Sense that these two experiences appear and disappear in a field of awareness. The awareness remains as these experiences come and go. Feel that you're the awareness in which these experiences appear and disappear, unaffected, unchanged, undisturbed, regardless of what's present or absent. Just like the sky, unchanged by the content of clouds, present or absent. Bring your attention to gaze into the space beyond your closed eyes. In that space, either see or sense the image of a burning candle. At the very center of that flame, see a golden egg. A luminous golden egg as the heart of the flame. Remember your intention, and now repeat it 3 times mentally. Slowly start to become aware of the waves of your breath. And through the waves of your breath, start to sense your physical body. Dense surface beneath your body supporting it. And start to deepen your breath Awaken small movements, beginning with your fingers and toes, keeping your eyes closed as you reawaken the body. Eventually bend your knees, turn over to your right side. Pause there for just a moment. Notice the quality of ease present in the body, even the mind. Then as you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes, lift yourself back up to a seated position. Take your time as you come back. If you're feeling drowsy, that's okay. If you heard everything I said, that's okay. If you heard almost nothing I said, or anywhere in between, that's also okay. We actually can't perform the practice incorrectly. But one of the beautiful things about it is it hovers somewhere between meditation and sleep. And it's in that state that the mind becomes far more receptive. So the internal objects that are constantly determining how we relate to the world can be changed, can be dismantled, can be rewritten. So I don't know if there's any questions or comments by those that are joining us this evening.
It was quite wonderful. It was a lovely meditation, very, very peaceful and calming. And for me, it really helped me to release the idea of controlling anything. You know, when you focused on one thing and, you know, where you set your intention and to release all control around that, it was very helpful in that way.
Beautiful.
I feel so mellow.
Wonderful. Hopefully it will ensure a good night's sleep tonight.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing.
Is that one of the side effects, Jeremy, is that you tend to sleep well that night?
That is one of the side effects. You know, if that's the worst warning, I'd say that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. And some people find, just as a note, if you choose to do this practice, whether the one we just did or a different one that's available out in the world on a regular basis, some people find it's better to do in the morning. It gives them a very clear and fresh start for the day. Others prefer to do it at night as it helps them sleep better. And if you find that you're really drowsy afterward, then best not to do it first thing in the morning, obviously, or vice versa. Some people get rejuvenated because it is deeply restorative. And if you find that you're more awake afterward, then just before bed wouldn't be the best time.
Great. Where could we, could you tell us where we could practice more with you, Jeremy, if we're in Colorado or? Absolutely.
If you're in Colorado, I teach Yoga Nidra a couple times a week, only 2 right now for some strange reason. I do private sessions outside, but 2 regular classes a week. One is on Tuesday evenings at Kindness Yoga in Cherry Creek. It's from 8 to 9 p.m., so it's very much about tucking you in at the end of the day. And then I teach one at noon on Wednesdays at Samadhi Center for Yoga at the Uptown location. And I love teaching it in the middle of the day, and I, in fact, love doing it in the middle of the day because it works as a great reset button. If you find that you feel depleted or you have so much on your mind and you're experiencing stress or any emotion that you can't seem to break, the practice of Yoga Nidra actually interrupts those cycles by creating that disidentification or disengagement with the stimuli that's creating that response. So it can be very effective for resetting the day right in the middle and having a clear start for the rest of the afternoon. I also have a recording that's available out there at some of those locations, and you can find many recordings online as well. YouTube has a plethora of recordings, also iTunes and Amazon, those sorts of places. Not a whole lot of them are fantastic, but there's a lot to choose from.
Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate you joining us for this last class in our April workshop.
It was an honor, Eric. Thanks so much for having me. And I guess I could also mention I do lead immersions in this technique. I've got one coming up in June at Kindness. It'll be over 2 days. And I also lead a teacher training in this technique over 2 long weekends, which will be coming up in May at Samadhi. So lots of opportunities to practice. And I offer just an introductory workshop various times throughout the year at different studios. So it was an honor being a part of this program and being a part of the final night. Hopefully we ended with a very strong still point, punctuation of stillness, so to speak.
Great. Oh, and last thing, can we find you online somewhere if people wanted to see your schedule or upcoming workshops?
Absolutely. If you go to www.metameme.org, that's metameme.org/Jeremy Wolf, JEREMYWOLF, then you can find my upcoming events, my schedule, and other things that I'm involved in.
Great. Thanks, Jeremy. We'll see you soon. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night.